Alright, welcome to the Franchise Sports Talk Fantasy Football Blog. I'm your man Akeem McCall here to give you my top 10 wide receivers for the 2012 NFL year. I already gave you numbers 20 to 11, and now I need to give you my top 10. But before I get to that, I would like to admit that your boy made a huge mistake not admitting Hakeem Nicks within my top 20. I can't believe I forgot about him and left him out hanging. So I decided to put him at number 13. He's a great receiver. He's dealing with the foot injury, but he should be fine this season. Going to be Eli Manning's one of his main targets. He's a big-time deep ball threat, and I cannot believe with his ability I did not put him within my top 15. I have to put him at number 13, which means everybody that I had at number 13 was AJ Green. He is now number 14, and everybody before him is going to bump back one slot, which means Steve Johnson of the Buffalo Bills is now ranked number 21, but he is still a good, solid receiver. You should definitely still pick him up in the later rounds if you have the opportunity to. So I got to go back to my top 10, starting at number 10. Victor Cruz of the New York Giants, Hakeem Nicks' teammate. He had a breakthrough season last season, over 1,500 yards receiving, especially with that good salsa dance. This kid built a lot of confidence. I remember seeing him in the preseason 2 years ago against the New York Jets, and he posted 2 great touchdown catches, and it showed that he had a lot of potential, and which he did. He earned his stripes. He deserves to be on this top 10, and I think he's a good, stellar receiver. And he has great route running ability. Him and Hakeem Nicks are probably going to be one of the top 3 best wide receiving tandems in the National Football League. Seriously, this two is a great duo. At number 9, I'm going to go with Greg Jennings of the Green Bay Packers. Now, I had Jordy Nelson at number 15. He is now number 16 because of Hakeem Nicks. And his teammate, Greg Jennings, I believe is a better receiver than Jordy Nelson. And he has more consistency and more longevity in his career in the NFL over Jordy Nelson. But do not get me wrong, Jordy Nelson is still a great receiver, but I do like Greg Jennings. He's posted up good numbers this year, and he still missed a couple of games. He was hurt for most of the time, especially those last 2 games, and he was still ranked in the top 20 for receivers in fantasy play overall last season. At number 8, I'm going to go with Marques Colston of the New Orleans Saints. He still posted over 1,100 yards last season. He missed 2 games, and he had 2 other games where he was not 100%, and he was still ranked within the top 15 point makers of the wide receivers last year. I think he could be due for a better year this year. If he just stays 100% healthy, he will give you some rack up some big points for fantasy play this year. At number 7, I'm going to go with Roddy White of the Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones' teammate. I think he's a stellar receiver. He is definitely an all-pro caliber player, and he's going to be Matt Ryan's favorite target. At number 6, I'm going to actually go with Mike Wallace of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, he has a contract situation that he's worried about this year. Now, this is going to be a big, interesting year for him, and all eyes is going to be on Mike Wallace. He's going to have to step up in order to get that big contract that he deserves, and I think Big Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, these 2 players are going to be great in the deep ball threat situation. Mike Wallace is an outstanding receiver coming out of Ole Miss. For each year of his NFL career, he has been improving a lot, and he has made a big name for himself. At number 5, I'm going to go with Steve Smith of the Carolina Panthers. He came back last season thanks to Cam Newton being his quarterback, and Steve Smith is going to be a true leader for that offense, helping out Cam Newton, helping him understand the passing attack and making his reads. And Steve Smith is still one of the fastest, best small guys in the history of the National Football League. Seriously, he's a great player. I'm not going to say the fastest, but one of the best small guys, under 5'10" guys. He's a great player. One of the guys that I love because he's just about my size. He's not a tall guy, but he plays like a tall receiver. He could definitely get to the ball, and Cam Newton's definitely going to be looking at his direction this year again. At number 4, I'm going to go with Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this guy is a top 2, probably top 3 receiver, but the reason why I have him at number 4 is because of the quarterback situation at Arizona. There's a quarterback battle between Kevin Cobb and John Skelton, and I think either quarterback can do the job and definitely get the ball to Larry Fitzgerald because he can get the ball from any direction. He has outstanding hands, good body control, and he would definitely get to that football. At number 3, Andre Johnson of the Houston Texans. Now, he missed most of last season due to a hamstring injury, but he came back in the playoffs and he had a big game against the Baltimore Ravens, and I think he's going to have another all-pro season this year, probably be one of the top 3 or 4 leading receivers in the National Football League. Just needs to stay healthy. At number 2, Wes Welker of the New England Patriots. He gets a lot of receptions, and if you get points per reception, he will probably be your number 1 receiver this year. If it's point per reception for your league, definitely look at Wes Welker. Now, he helped me out a lot last season, especially in that first week. I almost lost my first week due to that final game between Miami and the New England Patriots. That 99-yard reception helped me out a lot, and it actually got me over the edge in winning that first week. Thanks a lot, Wes Welker. And at number 1, this is an obvious choice, Megatron. Calvin Johnson of the Detroit Lions. Over 1,600 yards, leading the NFL. He would definitely be Matt Ryan. He is definitely Matt Ryan's favorite target, and he's going to get the ball just about at least 6 to 7 times a game catching the football. He's an outstanding receiver, one of the top receivers, probably the top receiver in the National Football League. I'm still debating between him and Andre Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald, but I really think I'm going to stick with Megatron being that number 1 overall valuable receiver in the National Football League. He's an outstanding player, and I loved him a lot. I'm definitely going to try to get him with my first pick this year. So, that wraps things up with all of my top 10. I need to give you some honorable mentions. Nate Washington of the Tennessee Titans, he had over 1,000 yards receiving last season, and with him and Kendall Wright together, I think these 2 players can be an underrated sleeper tandem in the National Football League. Torrey Smith of the Baltimore Ravens, he had a pretty good year as a rookie, over 800 yards. I hope he stepped things up this season, and he had a couple of big games, a couple of 100-yard games, and I think Joe Flacco's going to be looking towards his direction a lot more often, him and Anquan Boldin. And last but not least, Justin Blackmon, the first-round draft choice for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Him, with the addition of Laurent Robinson coming out of Dallas Cowboys, these 2 players can work well together, and I think Justin Blackmon will lead this team in receiving right away. Now, I got to give you my sleeper this year. I actually have 1 question mark of a sleeper and 2 players in particular. I believe that one of these 2 players will step up this year and be a good leading receiver for their team. Now, the receiver that I have as a question mark as a sleeper is Darrius Heyward-Bey of the Oakland Raiders. I think he's going to be due for a better season last year than he had this year as he had last year. 975 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns, but he sleeped his way, and I think a lot of people are forgetting about Darrius Heyward-Bey, and I think a lot of people are sleeping again on Carson Palmer. He's my sleeper quarterback this season. I think both these 2 players are going to improve this year and help out a lot of players in fantasy play. I think Darrius Heyward-Bey is going to be due for a breakout season this year. He's been proving, he's starting to prove a couple of spectators wrong, thinking he's an overrated player. He's still somewhat of an overrated draft pick, but he can prove everybody wrong this season, so I think he could be a sleeper this year. And the last 2 players I need to talk about, Devon Best and Chad Johnson of the Miami Dolphins. With Brandon Marshall gone, one of these 2 players will step up for these quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Moore, or David Garrott, who is ever in the starting lineup. Both these 2 players will definitely going to have to step up without Brandon Marshall. So I think these 2 players are an obvious choice as sleepers for this year's NFL's fantasy football season. I really got my money more on Devon Best because of his experience at Miami, and he had a pretty much of a down season compared to 2 years ago, where he had over 800 yards. The stats dropped this last season, but I think it's going to pick right back up this year. So I'm going to have to go with him and Chad Johnson, and a question mark with Darrius Heyward-Bey as my sleepers at the receiver for this year's fantasy football year. Now, next time I'm going to catch you guys is either tomorrow or on Tuesday. I have an appointment tomorrow, so I might not see you guys then, but I might see you. I don't know. If I don't see you tomorrow, I will see you guys Tuesday to start off with my top 20 tight ends. Thank you for watching today's vlog from Franchise Sports Talk. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.